Ross, you there? You can hear us? How are we doing in Saskatoon?
Doing great.
Woo, Saskatoon, everybody.
Saskatoon's in the house. We got
Hey, welcome Saskatoon. Good to see you. Let's get you spotlighted up here. Let's see. Here we go. Alrighty. One more minute. Can everybody hear me? We're good? Yes? Sick. Okay, hang it over here, Jasmeet. Okay, solid. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Nonprofit Data Accelerator program put on for you by, hey, Data Accelerator program. Put on for you by the newly crowned Data for Good Saskatchewan. We used to be Regina, Saskatoon. Now we're Data for Good Saskatchewan, representing the whole province. So let's get another round of applause for that one. Woo. I'm going to be your host, Ryan Tessier, in this evening of delights in data. And Scott Wells, our other chapter co-lead before we started, he knows I tell some infamously amazing dad jokes. And I said, Scott, I can't tell dad jokes tonight. This is a data accelerator program. I've got to tell data jokes. But it's not about me tonight. This is all about the community. This is all about you folks here today. It's all about everybody who participated in the program. And this is our chance to show everybody what we're all about. So welcome, everybody. This is a really special time, too, because we're trying a really crazy thing. We've got Saskatoon joining us. Ross Gadzella, one of our Data for Good leads, is up there. Ross, you want to say hi to everybody? Are you there?
Sorry, keeping him on mute. Hi, everybody. My name is Ross Gadzella up here in Saskatoon, working at Great Western Brewing Company. Yeah, excited to have some people here and see everything going on with the accelerator.
Awesome. And Ross was one of our guest speakers a few months ago, so give it up for Ross in Saskatoon. And then we also have our fabulous guests joining us online. I can guarantee you, folks, there are folks from across Canada. So yeah, we've got a lot of eyes on us. And shout out to any of the other Data for Good chapters who are listening in. We are awesome. So just also wanted to shout out to the judges, the folks who are helping make this thing possible. First of all, Strauch, am I saying your name right? Awesome. The Director of Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Studies. Dorothy Johnson, the Community and Social Impact, Chair of Community and Social Impact Regina, apologies. Kate McGear is the Director of Artificial Intelligence at Focus Systems, one of our premier sponsors. Thank you, folks. And then Taya Trifo, the Coordinator of Community Mobilization at the City of Regina. So hands for the judges. Thank you. And quite happy to have all of our nonprofits here as well. Al Ritchie Community Association. Woo! Regina Downtown Business Improvement District. Regina Food Bank. Yeah, Regina Food Bank. YWCA Regina. Welcome. And last but certainly not least, Queen City Wellness Pharmacy. All righty. Before we get too far into it, just want to set the stage for the agenda. And I also want to invite you to grab this QR code because I do have a virtual program set up for everybody. Because the presentations are PowerPoint, we didn't have a chance to put up all of our dashboards. So you can grab them from there so you can get an idea of what the agenda is going to look like. So go ahead and grab that right now. A little bit later, we're going to walk through some of the dashboards when the judges do their deliberations. So don't worry, for you folks who come here to see the hard data stuff, you're going to see it. Okay, so just wanted to shout out what Data for Good Saskatchewan is. If you're new to Data for Good Saskatchewan, whether a new member or somebody from the public, Data for Good is a national organization with branches across Canada. Data for Good Saskatchewan is a group of data and AI enthusiasts from Saskatchewan whose goal is to build data community around the province. and to do that by doing good, by helping the nonprofit sector. They need data help, and we have data professionals, and we're out to help them. If you want to get involved, and I'll shout out this again, Saskatchewan.dataforgood.ca, we have a sign-up form. Always encourage, we're looking for all kinds of volunteers. We'll talk more about that. So then just, if you see any of us goofy characters hanging around here, this is our current leadership team. We've got folks from Saskatoon, folks from Regina, and we're always looking to expand our volunteer basis as well. So I also wanted to mention just a few of our past projects. We've done a lot of work for a lot of different nonprofit organizations like Sexual Assault Services Saskatchewan, Regina Public Library, Sask Rugby, and very prominently, Regina Food Bank. I just wanted to shout out something that we're particularly proud of here at Data for Good. A few years ago, we did a really cool analysis. Shout out to Sean Milne and team, and looking at where underserved areas were as far as the food bank service areas. And the ultimate recommendation we made from that is find a second location near downtown. And if you saw the news lately, we're very proud that we had a hand in helping with that. So just a little bit about the Nonprofit Data Accelerator program. So this is the first thing we've ever done. This is the first time we've ever done this. I call this our inaugural Nonprofit Data Accelerator program. We've always run these sort of one-off projects, and it's always just kind of, it's not really been targeted in a lot of ways. We've done some really good work. We've had a lot of volunteers help us out, but we thought we'd take a really decided approach to helping out as many possible partners as we can in the nonprofit space. And we thought, we've got a lot of mentees looking to learn. We've got a lot of senior data professionals looking to grow their portfolios and grow their skill sets, build some leadership skills, and we've got nonprofits in need. So we thought, hey, let's get them all together, spend 3 months, put their, the nose to the grindstone and get to work. And at the end of it all, we have the demo day, which brings you all here today. Another shout out to our sponsors really quickly here. Shout out to the Social Impact Regina Community Focus Systems for donating some awesome money for some guest prizes. The Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Studies at Luther College at the University of Regina for giving us some space. Great Western Brewing for the lovely space up in Saskatoon, and the University of Regina for some water bottles and some space here as well. So now we're going to get into the presentations. We've got a pretty tightly packed schedule. The ground rules here are that all the groups will have 15 minutes to present with 5 for questions. We're going to leave it up to the judges to ask questions first, and then we're going to go around and find 1 question from the audience or somebody online. So we'll be kind of moderating that as we go. Prizes. So the prizes that we're gonna be giving out, $500 for first. It's a donation to the nonprofits that are the winners. Second, 300 for second. Can we get that muted? And then 200 for third. And then we finally have an audience choice prize. So you'll all get a chance to participate in the voting and pick the one that you like the best. But actually, we're all winners because you're all awesome, and every nonprofit gains something from this, okay? So without further ado, I just wanted to introduce you as well to some of the teams. This is also on your program, so I'm not gonna go through everybody. All the teams had a nonprofit champion. We matched them up with some data professionals. All the folks in bold are our senior mentors, and not that you're not as important as the mentees, but I just put you in not bold, so. Okay, so I wanted to just get started. I wanted to invite our friends up at the Queen City Wellness Pharmacy up to give a presentation. While you're coming up, I'm just going to let you know, Queen City Wellness Pharmacy is located in Regina's heritage community and extends holistic care to marginalized populations by providing publicly funded counseling, transportation, housing support, and necessities. They address substance use and mental health disorders with evidence-based, culturally appropriate care. They also combat community-transmitted diseases through vaccinations, testing, and the first community pharmacy-run PrEP program in Canada. Do you need the microphone, Sarah?
Yeah, I guess.
So joining us is Sarah, if you want to buckle that in. And I will just... Okay, we'll get it. just so we can button that up. There you go. Hey.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm from Queen City Wellness Pharmacy. Our pharmacy is in the Heritage neighborhood of Regina, which is on Treaty 4 land, home of the Lakota, Saulteaux, Cree, and the homeland of the Métis. I'm very, very proud of the relationships that I have, because I wouldn't be able to do any of the work I do without my leadership from my Indigenous colleagues and my Indigenous friends, and how gracious they always are in helping me learn and work towards reconciliation. I'm a strong believer that we're all smarter together than any of us are one. So everything we've done in our pharmacy has been towards this. And our tagline is "You lead with kindness," and Queen City Wellness Pharmacy, we're not assholes. That's how we judge ourselves and how we go. So this is where I was before. I knew nothing about anything to do with data. Everybody was always asking if we were studying, what we were doing, how we were like monitoring and what we were doing. And I was just like, I don't know, like give me an Excel sheet and I want to cry and have an anxiety attack. So I'm super grateful to our team of data professionals that helped me in Data for Good. They helped me collect everything in a way that collect everything in a way that like made sense for us in our organization when we're doing 100,000 things at a time. And it helped us get direction as to where we're going and where we are and where we've been, because we've never had a firm vision of this is where we're going to be in 5 years. We just follow the community and what their needs are. And that's how we've always run everything. But you know what? The data shows the same thing as what the community shows. And so it helps us steer. So I'm grateful for this. Okay. So I want to accomplish from the presentation. I didn't know what I wanted to accomplish from this presentation, but having the direction from the data has actually helped me figure out what I want to accomplish. And I'll get to that kind of as we go. It was kind of figuring out where the holes in the system are. I'm going to go through this presentation by talking about some people that I know and some things that I've learned along the way, and kind of it'll help us shape our journey. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is a woman named Jane. All the names that I'm using are not real names. But Jane, when I first started working at this pharmacy, it was 7 years ago, and it was down the street, right across from Pepsi Park. And it was a chronic disease management pharmacy where we did mainly nephrology and diabetes. But Jane came in, as a lot of other people in the community, and she had HIV, and she had fibrosis of the lungs, and she was on oxygen, and she probably had FASD, and she would walk around with her oxygen tank. And by the time she got to us, she was so out of breath. And she would try to spend her last $5 to buy food from us. And I would just give her the chips in the pop that we were selling at the time. And she would come in without any shoes on. And I was like, this isn't sustainable. And it's also like not good. Like if this is what she's eating in a day and I'm giving her chips and pop, this isn't great. So I started a food program. I started bringing in like oranges and cheese and crackers and serving coffee. And I started clearing out my closet and bringing clothes in for people. And then I started calling all my friends and my family and saying, hey, can somebody drop off shoes? We don't have any shoes today. And I started calling the hospital and being like, hey, we're calling an ambulance for her every day because she's running out of oxygen. This is costing the system a ton of money. Why can't we just get oxygen tanks for her here at the pharmacy so we can just switch them out where we are? Like let's not let policy be in the way of what makes sense fiscally and ethically for them. So Jane is the catalyst of everything we did. Following what she needed and what she did, started our food program. And now we order food from Carmichael Outreach. I'll get into that a little bit more. We serve hundreds of meals a day. And a lot of it was because of Jane. And the reason we did what we did with Jane is because we follow Maslow's hierarchy of needs for everything we do in the pharmacy. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, if you're familiar with it, it starts off with psychological needs or physiological needs. So that could be anything from withdrawal. If you're in withdrawal, you can't do anything else. If you're hungry, you can't do anything else. If you haven't eaten or if you're not safe, you can't do anything else. So we've got a large amount of our community that is living with substance dependency or just in unsafe environments. And if they're unsafe environments, then I'm not going to get very far talking to them about their diabetes. You know, could you imagine somebody coming in without shoes and they've got diabetes, and I'm like, but how are your blood sugars? You can't do that. You have to help with the food and the shelter and all these other things. So we're a pharmacy. We're supposed to help with diabetes. So we started off helping at the physiological needs. And that's how we started doing all the things that we're doing. And it looks from the outside a little bit backwards, but if you look at it from this perspective, hopefully it makes sense. I came from immense privilege, and one of the things that I had to do is figure out where these holes were in the system and how to work on this. So I always talk about our healthcare system and substance dependency as you need on-ramps into the system, because we have some great programs out there. So if we're talking about substance dependency, if you're homeless and you need to get on social services and you need all these things in order to be part of the system, then you need to get down to social services. And when you get there, they're going to ask you if you have ID and a bank account and a social insurance number, and you need all of these things. And if you walk in that government building and you are told you need these things, you're probably just going to walk out and be like, I'm so lost. I don't know what to do. I guess just there's nobody to help me. So we started looking at some of these barriers, and the barriers that you had to overcome to get to the barriers. And we started working with community partners and trying to get all the services into one place. That was kind of our goal and what we ended up working on to work things through. So these are some of the services that we are now providing in the pharmacy to do these on-ramps into the system. So this was, even though it was way easier for me to collect data, it's still very hard for me to collect data because we're doing 100 things at a time. So we got to do this basically for the month of May. So we did 28 mental health referrals in the month of May. And what does that mean for the system? So if we connected somebody to the Coast Mobile Crisis Team or to another mental health professional, and these were all people that were in imminent harm for like suicide or self-harm or other people, in most of these instances, we avoided a hospital admission by getting somebody started on medication on the spot, because I got a psychiatrist on the phone with them, had a mental health professional in the pharmacy, all sorts of things. We saved the system around $14,000 for each one of those people that we helped. We helped 15 different people with wounds that ended up not having to progress to be hospitalized. And that would have cost around $269 for every hospital visit they would have had. And if they had been in the hospital for more long-term infections, it would have been thousands and thousands of dollars. So hopefully we were just preventing some of that. We helped like bridge the holes in service ourselves by sending people in cabs to where they were going. A lot of places you walk into a pharmacy and you get an injection and you then have to go to a doctor's office to get injected. We did the injections and we found people that weren't connected to care anywhere else. So they have an order with mental health. They've got a community treatment order, meaning if they don't get their injection, they're going to jail. They couldn't find them. Finally, somebody thought, let's check PIP and see where they are all the time. Oh, they're at the pharmacy. Now these people are not missing their injections at all because we catch them once a month and do the injection in the pharmacy. And so this is just some of the numbers around who we've done that for and where we were getting no reimbursement or any of these things. Trans health education is a huge thing that we have that we do on our plates, because there's not a lot of places in the city that will support our trans youth. So on top of all that, this year we've served almost 34,000 meals and 34,000 cups of coffee. And all those cups of coffee are served with love and a hug with Cookum or me or whoever else is around. And sometimes we hand out like a licking, and sometimes we hand out a hug, whatever the community needs. We're just there for what they need. We form partnerships. We work together with the community. and the public stepped up. So the main reason we've been able to be so successful is our partnerships with people like the food bank, people like Carmichael Outreach, and the public. So we put out a call for clothes, that's what showed up. We put out a call for food, like people dropped off boxes of granola bars and sandwiches and pop and so many things. One of the biggest things, and probably one of the things I'm the most proud of, is it was 3 years of us advocating to get an ID clinic going. So it started 3 years ago. We met with Minister Hinley about the fact that I could walk into a Costco and get ID. And of course, government is more complicated, but the government also has a lot more information about me. So how can we can't our IDs reprinted? And we last year ran 2 huge ID clinics where we got treaty cards, SGI IDs, and social insurance number, bank accounts, all for the people that walked in the door. Plus CRA came and helped people with their taxes. Everything, all this stuff happened in one space. It was just overwhelming, the support we had with that. And since then, a lot of barriers around SGI ID has come down. So I am just I'm so proud is the wrong word because it makes it sound like I'm taking responsibility for it. I'm just so happy that these things have come together. We've done this because we're a safe space. We lead with kindness. And we're so fortunate because we get to celebrate with our people. The guy at the bottom right, he goes by Crazy Horse. Every year he gets a birthday cake in the pharmacy. Lots of people, we've got situations going on like that. We walk in smudge walks and the pride walks. We smudge every day in the pharmacy. We take people to ceremony. One other quick example I'm going to give is of 2 people that came in last week, and they came in, and this is a typical example. They come in and they'll ask for a pipe, and if they can't get a pipe, they'll get a needle. And we'll ask them, do you need Narcan? And they'll say, yes, I had an overdose last night. Why don't we get you into treatment? Why don't we get you on Suboxone? And what's going on with your hand there? You've got a really bad infection there. Let's get that treated. All these things. While we're doing this, where are you staying? How are things going? We're not staying anywhere. Why don't we get you a housing intake? You're already on social services. All these things are happening in one conversation in these places because they can sit down and have a cup of coffee with Cookham or sit down and have a talk with us. So very proud of the work we're doing. And I'm very proud of our partnerships with the community. So what is my big ask? Transfer your prescriptions. That's how you can support us. We're not a nonprofit. Almost all of our profits go into the community though. So if you're filling your prescriptions at a Shoppers Drug Mart or wherever else, that money is going to who knows where. Your money at Queen City Wellness Pharmacy all goes back into the community. We deliver for free anywhere in the city, and we are all excellent pharmacists. And you will then get a letter like this in the mail next year. Dear valued customer, this year we served 25,000 and we underestimated meals and 30,000 cups of coffee. We sent 2,000 people to the doctor, connected hundreds of people to housing coordinators, helped more than 300 people obtain government issued ID. We handed out countless hugs. We clothed people, we dressed wounds, we smudged, we sweated, we danced, we laughed, and we smiled. None of this would have been possible if you didn't fill your prescriptions with us. So thank you. Also, if anybody has any connections to help us get more services into one place or to try to do these things in other places where the services are where the people already are, that's the key. Having the services where the people are, not trying to make people come to the services. Here is my contact information if anybody needs it. And thank you. I'm ready for questions.
All right, everybody. Oh,
Great.
yes, absolutely. Questions. So Queen City Wellness Pharmacy, I think I pronounced that better than Community and Social Impact Regina, hey? We'll go to the judges. So we'll just kind of go line by line here. Taya.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah. Obviously it sounds like, and you do work that leads with care in the thing, in the pharmacy, and meeting people where they're at and just sitting down with them. And I feel like in that, I imagine it's hard to collect data, kind of finding that balance of, sitting down with coffee, but then also, taking down one coffee afterwards. So can you share what that process was like and what you learned from trying to track that good work that you're doing?
So it started off with, they gave me an Excel document. I'm like, whoa, I can't.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we gotta keep moving here.
And that wasn't working for me. There was too many things going on. I couldn't deal with that. So we got a Google form going with everything in there and just could click and submit, click and submit, click and submit. And then things like the coffee, I actually just got from my vendor that I'm buying all my coffee from. And I said, hey, how many pots of coffee did I buy from you? And went through there. So that number doesn't actually encompass when we've had donations of coffee, because McDonald's had donated some coffee to us and some other things. So it didn't catch everything, but it caught enough to kind of show the impact, which was important. And I now have a process to do this, even though we won't do it ongoing. It's too much. I will hopefully be able to just continue to do like point in time and comparisons. And I think that that is useful. See how it's changing. Yeah. Okay.
I'll bring it over here. This one working? Working? Yes, yes. Hey, there we go. Hey, Kate.
Hi. So I'm curious, how did the Data for Good Accelerator team help get you these numbers, and like what work did they do to help you solve some of these incredible problems that you guys are trying to tackle?
Okay, so they help, the big thing is the data collection. I didn't even know where to start, but then I didn't even know what to do with it or what to look for. So as we started to collect data, we got to have conversations about like, look how much money you're spending on cabs. Look at how much you're doing this. Look how much you're sending that. So some of the things that they put into the Power BI model really helped demonstrate that to me and show me like month per month and how much help that was. And starting off with how do I get these numbers into this? Because the traditional ways of doing it weren't working for me. If you don't sit at a desk, I think that some traditional ways of gathering data is very difficult.
Yeah, and I want to shout out John Malik, who joined us as a mentee, but actually ended up teaching us a few things about data collection.
Yeah.
So shout out John. Colleen. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the excellent presentation, and nice to meet you. I think we've chatted on the phone, but we've never
Yeah.
met face to face. So nice to meet you today. My question is, now that you have kind of established data collection and have an idea of the work that you're doing, how do you plan to implement the data that you've collected and what you now understand about what your organization is doing into your longer term strategic plan to continue the amazing work that you folks are doing?
So like I said, so much of what we do is what the community needs, but this has been the first time that like when you're talking to government and you're talking to the public, you need to be able to speak with both sides. So I'm good at the storytelling, although today I was very flustered. But I needed to also be able to show the impact on the community and show like how much money we're saving the community by doing this or that and trying to get the government to change their perspective on things. Some of that is way more difficult than what I was able to put here. Like, on Thursday last week at the pharmacy, we had 4 new syphilis cases and a brand new HIV case that would not have been found anywhere else. One of the women was pregnant. There's no data about how much money we save the system by finding that right now and by stopping the spread. The numbers aren't out there. The most recent numbers were 2017. So the other thing I'm pushing now is, and I've started to put buckets in people's ears, how come we don't have these numbers? So it's not just at pharmacy level, it's at like public health level that I'm trying to like push things a little bit more.
Yeah, so if I understand, like using those numbers to advocate more for systemic change.
For systemic change, exactly. Everything I do, like there's very few things that I've done that have been like, the shameless plug I did at the end about like transfer your prescriptions. That's about as far as I go for something that happens only in the pharmacy. Everything else we do is for systemic change. And it's, like happened with the ID clinics and some of the other things. Now I know how I can study things about like how many people are going to social services and coming back without ID. I was able to show those things and bring that information to like Minister Mikowski, who now gave us a social worker there twice a week. We have a Ministry of Social Services social worker doing cis and it's at intake. So we're getting rid of the barriers by showing the work that we're doing, and we needed tangible ways of showing that. And now we have that more accessible. That makes sense?
Thank you. That was a great presentation. I had heard rumors about wellness pharmacy some time ago and didn't really understand it. I've got a much better understanding. With the success that you're seeing, and you talked at the very beginning, or maybe it was in this slide that introduced you, talked about, was it the first in Canada?
Yeah. Yeah, we're the first in Canada for a few things that we've, well, actually, almost everything we're done. So we were the first in Saskatchewan for sure to do needle exchange at a pharmacy level. We were the first in Canada to do a pharmacist run PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis to prevent HIV for people that use drugs. That program's been run by pharmacists before for like the homosexual male population, but not in people that use drugs, which is of course where HIV is in Saskatchewan.
So as a follow-up to that, are you finding a lot of interest from other agencies, other pharmacies, other provinces?
So it's funny because when I went and asked for needle exchange to happen in the pharmacy, it was in the middle of the pandemic and they stopped doing needle exchange everywhere else in this, like really stopped. And I was like, we need to keep doing this. Our HIV levels are going to be out of control. And one of the people I talked to said, well, if you want to do it, Sarah, then all the pharmacies are going to want to do it. I'm like, well, that would be wonderful. But lo and behold, not another other pharmacy wanted to do it. So part of what we do, and one of the reasons we try to be so vocal and out there and why I'm on social media when I'm horribly uncomfortable with social media sometimes, is because I need to show that the people that work in pharmacies that are like this are people like me. I'm the oldest person in the pharmacy. Everybody else that works there are these young females, you know, like we don't have any big, like, I joke about my guns being in the store, but like we don't have bouncers. We don't have anything. We've got to cook them. We've got, you know, people call me auntie, that taking down the barriers around supporting these vulnerable populations and knowing that it's not, I've never felt dangerous. I feel home. My kids are in the pharmacy. There's like 15 pictures of my kids and they're handing out food and stuff. So I want it spread. And that's why I'm very open about this. And that's why I advocate the way I do, because pharmacies are the most accessible healthcare professionals. And so you can walk into a pharmacy and talk to a healthcare professional anytime. You can't do that with anybody else. So I'd love for all pharmacies to do this, but they don't.
Right on. Thank you so much. Everybody give it up for Twin City Wellness Pharmacy. Next up, Regina Food Bank. So in Regina, the community rallies around each other, creating a bond that is the city's heartbeat. The Regina Food Bank staff, volunteers, and donors feed hope by distributing the nutritious food, providing education, offering support programs. They strive to restore dignity, health, and hope for clients while building a fairer and more caring community. With low overhead and high impact, they are a trusted partner for donors dedicated to serving the community responsibly. And I will get their presentation up in 2 seconds.
All right,
Here we go.
Down there at the back.
Let's give you
All
this.
We have, actually, everybody has something to say, so there's gonna be lots of talking, and you'll get used to my voice, and Baird's voice, and Abel's voice. Special shout out before we begin. I am not a data professional, but I had the very fortunate chance to work with some excellent data professionals here. So Baird and Abel, you guys are fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, the Regina Food Bank was kind of in a special situation because as Ryan, I almost called you Scott. Ryan kind of pointed out at the start of this, we have actually worked with Data for Good before, and we have worked with data before. So we had a bit of a different problem than a lot of the other organizations that we'll talk to today had. Our problem was we started tracking our data, and now we've got parts of us that don't have data tracking, and we got to figure out how to deal with that. So I asked my lovely friends here, how do we do this? How does data tracking actually work? And we investigated, and they've taught me a huge amount about data and what actually it can do in the world around us. So today we're going to talk about why data matters to every nonprofit employee and not just the executives. So if we get up the next slide.
Oh, next slide. What? I gotta give you this. Here, you wanna take this one?
Yeah, there it is. Clicker. Coolio, coolio. Okay, so in my experience with life, there are a lot of different types of people that work at nonprofits. They volunteer, they work there, they lead, whatever they're doing. There's a lot of different people who do that. But for all of them, it's important that what they're doing means something. For the people that, like this quote, have found that service is kind of the happiest way to go through life, they're pretty dope about everything. But the problem is that no matter why you're working at a nonprofit, the really big thing that pushes you to do things is that moment when you actually get to do something and you get to see somebody smile. You get a hug. You get a thank you. When you get to put that food in somebody's hands who hasn't had something to eat today, and it means the world to them. And the problem with data is that when you're tracking your data, you are not doing any of those things. So, how do we go about it? How do we start? And how do we make it matter to the employees who are the people who we actually have to get the data from? So, if you want to move right along. So, the cool thing about data is that it allows us to do a cool thing called prediction. As I'm sure many of you data professionals know, prediction is fun. Prediction makes me think of magic balls and mysterious magical powers and stuff. And it also makes me think of my brother. My brother is 6'7" ish. He is like 200 and whatever pounds. He's like twice the size of me. He could like lean on me and I'd disappear entirely. And I like to cook, so I would be making ramen for us. And I would make myself a pack of ramen if he would come along and say, I want ramen, and I would make 2 packs of ramen, and he would eat 2 packs of ramen. And then I would have to go back and make myself another pack of ramen. But the first time that happened, it was very tragic and I was very annoyed. The second time that happened, I made 3 packs of ramen. And I was prepared. And that's exactly what our data can do in our professional world, in our data professional world and in our nonprofit world. It allows me to be able to look at that giant pile of food that we have in the back and say, that can feed like maybe one of my brothers. So, in the actual food bank, before we did data analysis, we were kind of guessing at a lot of things. We were making guesses on incomplete information that left us in situations of crisis a lot more often than we'd probably like to admit.
Make sure you do that.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Old. You. All right, so with this mission in mind, thoughtful supply chain management, quality control, waste reduction, and customer and volunteer insights can tell us what we need when we need it, where to reduce waste by managing expiration dates and predicting needs, who's coming, what they need, and who's going to be there to make it happen. So let me rephrase that. When we didn't know what we needed, we had to overextend by purchasing essential products, or we failed to support halal and vegetarian engagement. When we didn't know what we had, we couldn't commit our overstock to nonprofits who sought our support. Then we threw it away because it was damaged or past its expiration date. So when we didn't know what to do with the extra volunteers, we unknowingly turned them away from supporting other nonprofits and missed our opportunity to foster our relationships with them. So each of these statements is an opportunity for us to conquer and to drive the feelings we believe in here. So without investing in knowing, planning, and doing, we may never hear that I volunteer because I can spend time with the other volunteers I've come to belong with while learning modern business principles and helping others. I can depend on the food bank because when I walk in with my young children for kilometers, I know I'm going to be able to feed my family while maintaining my pride and my religious beliefs. And working at the food bank, I can fight for the city because I know where we're at and I know my next move. So knowing what we're trying to accomplish with our work process, how do we plan and implement these?
I asked them how, and how do we not only start, but how do we make it stick? And Abel here is gonna talk about what we figured out.
Okay, the question is where to start. Yeah, okay, let's go. So while most corporations are struggling to catch up from 20 years, relying on paper and monolithic business systems, what do we, how do we uh, investigate an environment where tools are limitless and everyone is trying to sell you something? So the answer is simple: start small. Consider the time that someone introducing you a new business, just jumping in, so just give you a stress and create a kind of significant friction leading to resistance. So what you can do here, as I said, we need to just start small and try to just break down the process into a few steps. We can work on the paper, enter data to the database manually, and we can show the staff, those people who are involved in this process, the results. And then at the end, try to just optimize the process and make it automated, okay? So if you think about that, it's a logical kind of process that you can just follow and you can just globally accept it. And this allows technical workers the freedom to learn tools, understand the business, and figure out what data is essential for them. So these individuals kind of are important for us to invest in and support them. And finally, I just want to mention that even those major companies, corporations like Costco and Wall Street, they are just waking up on the other side of Windows 98. And with your blank slate, you are kind of 20 years ahead. So yeah, start small, but think big.
All right. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. So like Abel was just discussing, a lot of these larger corporations are really stuck behind really rapidly degrading architecture. And this forces them to outsource. But this isn't the situation that we're facing. So we can actually take the infrastructure that's costing a lot of people their jobs, and we can apply it in kind of a reverse effect for a nonprofit community by giving them those tools without that exorbitant overhead. All right, so you can't afford the staff that make your business modern, or the staff you invest in are being picked like grapes by these larger corporations that are going to pay them $70,000 to $90,000 a year. So this makes a starting line a lot further than you like to imagine. And instead of us getting trapped behind all these different things, so having to create these databases, stuff like that, we kind of market a tool called dBeaver that's going to allow us to really just start collecting our data without having to deal with all these servers and stuff, and that can also still connect to all our different services. Here we are. Let's go to next slide here. Oh, that one. I think we skipped it. All right, so here's what we did. So we created a Microsoft 365 business account, commissioned licensed Microsoft Fabric and Azure Maps, set up user accounts in Microsoft Entra, distributed license or user accounts and configure admin settings, started a server, set up disaster recovery, load balancing, set up server authentication, network security, configured network whitelist, IPs, granted SQL and identity access, and finally we created a database on the server and generated 3,000 fake volunteers and connected our data management tools. And now we're at the starting line. So this is what we're trying to sell you: is take this tool, work on paper, and develop your business processes first. And then when you're ready, start doing these things, because it's going to cost you $70,000 to $500,000 a year just to get to the starting line. All right, so I kind of skipped ahead. Let's skip this one. right here. So through dbeaver, SQLite, and some paperwork, you can track and store incoming, outgoing donations, upcoming expiration dates, reduce waste, and support other nonprofits. So dbeaver creates that safe transition to classical analytics and database administration, while automated reports are generated with simplicity, while negating that tech debt that's created by turnover, budget issues, and funding restraints. So once we've learned how to use dbeaver to work with SQLite, we can finally use it to connect to our traditional databases and connect our services.
Which leads us to kind of where we want to end up. I have worked in the warehouse before. I have worked in most of the places at food bank. And one of the things that happens sometimes in the warehouse is most of our stuff is kept in the wonderful, wonderful head of our warehouse manager. But unfortunately, when the warehouse manager isn't there, sometimes things get forgotten. And so I came up with this little number based on my time there. And I said that if we could actually track our data, about 30% of the food that would normally get tossed, because let's be real here, we get some perishable stuff that is real questionable sometimes. About 30% of that, though, we could save and we could give to our nonprofit partners, like most of the group agencies that are here now, like the Wellness Pharmacy, like the Allergy Center, like the YWCA. I don't think we need to give food to the, no, yeah, I didn't think so. But that can go to someone else. To put it into context, 30% doesn't sound a lot. But we last month, and I recorded this so I know this, we gave out 2,901, 731 pounds of food. 30% of that is 87,519 pounds. 87,000 pounds of food is 21,750 people fed. That's all people that we could be feeding if we do a little bit of data collection. And if we dedicate to that data. Now, as Sarah has commented, and I know we're a little bit over, but as Sarah has commented, data has done a lot of amazing things, and all of our nonprofits here can attest to it. Just her reporting it per month showed the huge impact of the Wellness Pharmacy. And you'll see the huge impacts that data collections have had on understanding how each of these nonprofits work. And I think the coolest thing that I've learned working with Data for Good is that the data that we have as nonprofits is the type of data that can change our city for the better. So I would encourage all the nonprofits, all the volunteers, everyone. If you can help your nonprofits collect data, if you can help make these things real, do it. And heck, maybe just work on it yourself, because who knows what your data could do.
Everyone. Thank you, Rebecca. And you can tell the hallmark of a true data professional that he got through the entire data infrastructure of a food bank in like 3 seconds, faster than Windows 98 loads, eh?
Yeah.
All right, over to, actually, we'll start over with Dorothy first. Okay, we got time for 2 questions online? Oh, 2, okay. Okay, 2 questions. Who wants to go?
Okay.
Dorothy, let's go.
So as I was listening to the presentation, there's a lot of good information there that I wasn't aware of. It occurred to me that it just made sense. Like, it makes so much sense to collect that information and make the best use of what you are provided with and reduce waste. But I'm also thinking that there are way too many food banks in the world, and they must provide very similar services. So is there a mechanism to share this information, or did you get ideas from other food banks? Like, I think we'd all agree there's too many food banks. And
You are so right. There are way too many food banks. My goal in life is to be out of a job. I would love to be out of a job because no food banks are no longer needed. 10 out of 10, best day of my life if that happened. But as it stands, the really cool thing about if we start collecting this data and if we start implementing the systems that we're talking about with DBeaver and everything, is that will allow us to do that, to share the data across Saskatchewan and potentially across Canada and make some of those changes in how food banks run, in how we do these things across Canada to potentially put me out of a job.
That would be great. Not that you're out of a job, but.
I'm not terribly worried. I think I'll live.
All right, one more question. Just one more question. Kate?
Baron, was it? Barrett, sorry. I was just wondering if you could repeat your tech stack and what you did a little bit slower.
Sure thing. Yeah, let me, so yeah,
Corporate research.
the idea was to overwhelm you, so. Let me dial her back here.
Hold it up, Eric.
Alrighty, yeah,
You want me to hold it?
There you go.
sure. Yeah, you wanna hold that mic.
Okay.
I need like 4 sets of hands. All right, so in order to kind of show us what the end goal would be, we, you know, typically when an outside IT is gonna come in, they're gonna say, all right, we gotta hook you up with all different things. You gotta buy into this software. You need somebody coming in with you every month, sitting down with you. You know, you gotta start hiring database administrators, all these different people. You know, it's gonna cost you a pretty penny and you're gonna be stuck with us, right? Because our services stop working when you stop paying us. So that is very difficult, and that's kind of outside of our budget. You know, because when you hire one data professional that can do all this, it's I think it was like 210,000. So that's quite a bit. That's an entire month of the year you're dedicating just to one person's salary, and that person's gonna get off as soon as you've got a little bit of experience, they're out the door again. You know, they're great. I'm making $120,000 a year. You know, I should do this for my family. So in order to bridge that gap, I looked at serverless architecture. And so DBeaver allows you to start that out, start using SQL, and skip that really cumbersome,
The
you know,
giant block of text is unnecessary.
that leap in order to get to the starting line. So we went and we built that big architecture on Microsoft Azure, and we connected and we created a database that could be shared for volunteers between the nonprofits. And then I built some apps. I just did a bunch of stuff to show like, here's where we could go from this small architecture without, you know, without having invested $500,000 every year into just getting there. Does that answer that?
Yeah.
So much, everyone. Regina Food Bank. Righty, up next, who do we got here? We have the YWCA. I'll invite YWCA up. And just briefly, so we'll just make sure you guys get all hooked up here because we want to make sure that the sound's good. That in your, you know what? Use this one here. Pocket, and then- okay, that's good.
Hi, my name's Mohit. I work with the YWCA. I've been with them for about 4 years now. And recently I've been involved with this data assimilation and data analysis work. Thank you. So all this is, so as you are most of you are aware that YWCA is one of the many nonprofits in Regina that help with women facing domestic violence, in general, population that have requirements of health, of trying to deal with addiction. We also help with children who need to be placed in a foster care till somebody takes over. So there is a huge, in all this, so just imagine, YWCA was opened in about, I think, 1910 or 1912. If you collected data from all that time till date, how much of valuable information would you have? And then it depends how you want to use it, right? So with that in mind, when the management approached saying that, will you be able to help us with this? I was like, okay, I have had experience not with the current tools available in the market. I'm talking about 12, 15 years back when Excel was the only thing. People, I know somebody here doesn't like Excel. So yeah, that guy. So that was the basis. But I knew that data could do a lot of things, wherein you could get some information or some insight which you could leverage to your own advantage or decision making. Now, with that in mind, so this is the YWCA overview. We have mainly gender, we take care of all these requirements in the society. Now, before we continue, I will just, so the data that we are using or the whatever we work with is just partial data because this work has just begun. Now, everything exists in manual form. For example, in pages and pages and pages. I'm trying to build a process where everything becomes automated and data capture becomes automated. And by far, I've just been able to do it with Excel. I'm still exploring what other better ways are there to, I don't want to disrupt the existing process, but I want to use it so that I can build something better. So right now, the data that we worked on is only from these 3 locations, not from all of the YWCA. I'm still going part by part, every department, asking them what they need done, what do they, and let's be honest enough, people are not used to data. So they are like, what will it do with us? Maybe it'll take away my job. I don't know. Maybe. So I'm trying to tell them that it is not all that bad. You, more than anything else, it will allow you or give you some insights. And then you can use them to whatever your advantage. So as I said before, data exists. It's fragmented, totally fragmented and so dispersed that if I sit on it, it'll take me at least 2 years to collect all data, just the collection of data and sorting it out and like putting it in proper formats. So as of now, the data is pretty fragmented. It's a manual process where everybody is manually working on the process. They're probably filling up some PDF, printing it, or scanning it and sending it. It's a pretty time-consuming process, and people forget they have more important work to do than write a report, right? With none of these available, with fragmented data, with manual processes, there is hardly any insight available, neither to the working staff, neither to the coordinators, nor to the department heads, nor to the management team. Nothing's available. Or if it is available, if they have to, what they have to do is they have to go through heaps of paper before making any sense out of it. So the objective or the goal, I'm not too worried about the numbers here. My main focus was on what it helps us to accomplish in the end. What tools can we utilize which are probably cost effective, process effective, manpower effective, so that whatever we need to go or whichever direction we need to go, we can go there. So for example, so the objective was to leverage data insights. So basically take decision which was data informed or data driven. That was the main objective. So that's at the back of my head every time when I work, what can be done to satisfy this requirement. What it will help us, so for example, what it will help us to achieve. One is enhance and optimize occupancy. So for example, we have shelters for women. Right now, they're using a process where data is not flowing across. So if I am able to collect data, it'll help you, it'll help the occupancy for the staff to see the occupancies. It'll help us effectively utilize the resources that we have at our disposal. And like this, various other factors or various other requirements can be met. Now, for example, for whatever data we have collected, and I'm not like the team has worked only with data worth probably 1 year. and for some other data point, just 3 months. You can see, we can actually, with the data available, we can already say that 92% of our are occupied. We can already say, show you what bed occupancy is, average length of stay. So these are just some examples what you can do with just what, 1 year worth of data. So now just imagine if I feed in 5 years worth of data, or going forward, let's say what data, what do we have 5 years down the line? And you all are aware probably in the society that we are moving to the new center very soon. It will immediately scale up every requirement. So if you ask me now, I have nothing to show you. But ask me in 1 year's time or 5 years' time, I have lots of things to show you. So we're building towards that. So the entire endeavor is to build up processes or build up systems of data collection, data analysis, which will help support every aspect of the YWCA, right from decision making, from processes, streamlining processes, from staff management, from resource utilization, everything. What impacts? So you will ask, okay, you've collected data, or you've done everything. What does it do? It helps us discharge services. Whatever we do in the YWCA, it helps us get those services to the public more effectively. It shows us trends that are happening. I was myself, so when I started with the YWCA, I started right at the front line. I'm not from a non-profit background. I'm a hardcore corporate guy. I never knew this side of society also existed. So it blew my mind. But then more than blowing my mind on the work, I was very curious about, is this pattern repeating? And lo and behold, as of today, with just a little bit of data, I can tell you that there are various patterns that are repetitive of the clientele that visits us. So it gives you insights into things that were probably not visible in your daily working. Some insights. One of the places which takes care of, one of the residents where the women stay has 53% among the clientele are children. 73% of the population is supported with the Isabel Johnson shelter, which is at our downtown location. Now, we have, so a lot of, we call them incidents, drug overdose, somebody getting into a fight, somebody probably having a health problem approaching us. I have tracked that data. So I started with this data because it was pretty simple to capture for the past 2 years. And I can tell you exactly what month of the year is the pattern repeating. And you realize it's not in the winter months. It dips in April, it picks up sometime later. So it also allows us to capture location and time of incidents. Who was the staff who was working at that time at that location? Does that staff need extra debriefing? Do we need to have more staff at that point in time? All that, what are the most services that are required? 911 is the most called services. After that, followed by the police. What kind of incident was it? I can tell you right now, drug overdose is the maximum occurring incident that I have seen. And I've just collected 2 years. So 2024, 6 months, and 2023 data. That's it. So these are few things that you will see why collect. All this has happened because we have collected some data. The tools are not important. What you intend doing is important. Tools are there are lots of tools available in the market. And obviously, you will have to probably figure out the one that suits you most in terms of economy or spending or whatever usage. what it does is it gives us, so in the end, what it'll help us do is it'll give you a comprehensive view. It'll help you understand or look at insights. It'll help you probably identify trends and patterns. So in the end, all these three will help you, and many more will help you drive your work effectively in the community. This is one example. So the team captured data and used Power BI to show you a sample of what is collected. This was not available. Now imagine if I could put this on the company intranet, not the internet. Every staff, every manager, every coordinator will know what is their role. So I didn't know what I was doing. Where do I stand in the huge organization of 390 people? This is the work I do. This is the work your staff does. The staff understanding is also important. So that's it. In the end, I would like to thank Data for Good, Ryan Scott, for giving us this platform. And the team has been excellent. Without their work, this would not have been possible.
And thanks to you, YWCA. Thank you, Mohit.
Thank you very much.
And if you want to see their dashboard, we'll later be showing it on the screen while the judges deliberate. For now, let's turn to the judges. How many we got, Scott? Okay. Taya?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for the presentation. I'm really fascinated by the statistic or the data that you showed showing that the room occupancy rate is different than the bed occupancy rate. Did you have any initial insights or?
Yeah, there is.
about-
So I knew you would ask this question. We also have this issue. It's based on, so each room will have multiple beds.
Right.
So that creates that. So we are trying to sort it out. This is just based on the data that we have collected. So what I'm doing right now is just collecting data as it is existing.
For sure. Like,
And then trying to see, okay, is this the right thing? So the question that you asked me was the question that I also asked. There is a discrepancy in this data. What's causing this discrepancy? We'll sort it out. So be sure that this will get sorted out. I'm just trying to highlight what data has done for us. This was never there. If you ask some manager 3 years back, oh, the manager would say, hold on, I'll get back to you after 2 days because I have to see some. And people manage Excel sheets in bits and pieces. It's spread out like bugs everywhere in the entire system. So which file is credible? I don't know. Give me some. So there are as many people, as many Excel files.
for sure. Yeah. I was wondering if it was pointing to like the suitability of like the room size compared to what people were needing. So
Yeah, that will also help us decide that at some point in time. Are the rooms big enough?
Yeah.
Can we have multiple people in the same room? So yes, that it will answer that question at some point in time.
yeah, it's fascinating. Thanks for
Thank
all
you.
this.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to turn to Colleen because we missed you last time, and then we'll turn it over to the audience to get some questions in there too.
Thank you. Nice to see you
Nice to
again.
see you.
Yeah, great presentation. My question is related to how you anticipate, like, I think this is amazing to have all this information together, and a lot of the time nonprofits are reporting on information. As you're continuing to collect data over time, what is your dream of how you could use that data to, in your funding applications or expand, or do you have ideas of ways that you would like to do that to help support funding grants, philanthropy in those areas?
That is one part of the whole, that is one goal of this whole exercise, that it will help the organization tell the story to the funders, to the public, to the stakeholders, to everybody who is in some way connected or involved with our work, because that story is important. If you don't, so I read this somewhere just a couple of days back. It says if you don't have a story, you can't convince people. So the base idea behind all this is to tell a story, and tell a story which is driven by data, driven by collection of some work that we are doing. So that's the whole idea behind this whole exercise. And I'm hoping it'll happen. So it is a time-based effort. It's not going to happen just in 2 days' time. It'll take a while. That's what I said. I said, if you ask me after 1 year or after 5 years, I can tell you a better story about the YWCA and the work it does and what we can accomplish. And as the food bank says, be able to predict our winter months are going to be heavy. Can we have more staff? Can we have more utilities? Can we have more resources available? That way.
Thank you. And I just want to turn it over to Saskatoon and to the virtual attendees, see if there's any questions from anybody out there. Any questions in the room? We doing? Ross, how are we looking up there?
No questions so far on our side.
Solid, solid. Everybody in the room good? Online? Corinne says, what session was there's a question from Corinne. What session was most valuable from the Data for Good? Might need to expand on that one just a little bit.
Yep, I just need a little more clarity. When you're saying what session, could you be a little more elaborative?
Anybody in the room?
Yes, please. Thank you.
We got one in the room here.
Have you had to implement any policies related to protecting private information of your clients?
Yes, this data that I have shared with the team, it does not have any names. If you, it's there in the Power BI, you will see one of the metrics is which staff handles most of the data. Most of the incidents, for example. We have hidden those names. So nowhere in this, whatever data has been used, nowhere in this is the client's name or any date of birth or any of those information I have shared with them. So yes, data privacy is something that we are very particular about because of obvious reasons. So yes.
And Corinne expanded on her question. Which one of our classes was the most insightful?
Which one of the data?
Yeah, of the accelerator. Just quickly.
I was pretty amazed by the Power BI thing. I'm floored. So I have been eating Ian's head, and I've also posed this question to Ryan saying that, can you please teach me this?
And you came to the right place.
So yes, I will see how we can work together. But yes, as I said earlier, thank you, Data for Good, Ryan, Scott, and the team. And thank you, everybody. There's one question there.
Oh, and I think we're out of time for sorry about that. Yeah, no, we're just got to move on to the next one. And next up, thank you, Mohit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Regina Business Improvement District. We have Dylan and Judith joining us. I don't have my notes on here, but I'm sure you guys will introduce yourselves just fine. Here, I'll get you hooked up. So you take this.
Do we have to?
We got one. This one you got to hold though. Okay. Sorry, I'll get you. Yeah, you're good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and you have to hold this one, okay? Or just put it in your pocket and hold the.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yes, perfect. Okay. Judith, a quick.
Hello.
Judith, a quick test. Okay, welcome everybody. This presentation is going to be a little bit different because while a lot of the other nonprofits are very focused on how to get the data and how to use the data, the city of Regina does actually a pretty good job of collecting data, especially the type of data that we're talking about, which is property taxes, which is everyone's favorite type of data. So quick introductions. My name is Dylan Edgar. I'm one of the data professionals for Data for Good. Up with me is Judith. And we did this project with, 3 others, Pablo, who's not here today, Venkata, and Onofre, or JR. Do you guys want to give a wave at the back? Okay, yes, we did a case study on property taxes, which I promise you by the end of this, you're not going to be bored. However, I do want to hit us off with something right off the bat, which is inflation sucks. Everyone's had to deal with it lately. Everyone's had to deal with how much more expensive things are getting, how much everything around us is costing. Now, a lot of what we're going to talk about is going to make you mad because unfortunately, spoiler alert, your property taxes are going up this year. For those of you that don't know that there is an assessment being done on the properties of Regina. Now, you might think, well, I can't control if my property value goes up, and if my property value goes up, I should be happy. Unfortunately, there's a hidden little asterisk with that we're going to talk about specifically with downtown properties and how that's going to affect you. But first off, Judith, what is the Regina Business Improvement District?
Regina Downtown represents all of the businesses in our downtown core. So I'm not going to read off our mission, but basically we produce events, we do programs, activations throughout our downtown in support of members, so we're our business members. We receive our funding from our businesses. So when they get their tax bill, they're going to pay their property tax, they're going to pay a library tax, education tax, and then they get a levy hit on there. That comes to us, the city collects it and I guess redistributes it to us, and that provides our funding. So we're in a little bit of a more stable position where our funding is kind of assured every year, but the pressure is on to make sure downtown is a place for everyone that works for business, but also for you all as the Regina community. Our boundaries, it's the big blue box. So typically we go from Angus to Osler, or Halifax actually, and then the railroad tracks south to 13th. And then we have a little bit of a dog leg there that goes to College along Broad. Yes, there's a reason for it. No, I'm not going to go into it right now. We only have 15 minutes. But between the year 2000 and 2008, $1 million of investment in downtown from the city of Regina, which is extremely concerning when downtown typically has the oldest infrastructure in the entire community. We did a study. We were the lowest of 13 major Canadian cities. And that lack of investment has helped cause the property values in downtown to decrease at a higher rate than other properties in Regina. And if you work downtown, did it?
No, I think it just cut out real quick.
Okay. Oh, there, sorry. You're probably enjoying all the construction and the traffic accommodations that you have to go through. The city is playing catch up, a real big game of catch up right now. So what we're feeling is the impact of the disinvestment from previous years and previous political decisions.
And just to be clear, that's not $1 million per year. In that 8 years, they spent $1 million total.
If you'll remember those years, it was no new taxes. They didn't raise any taxes, and that's why there was no investment.
So let's talk about property taxes. So at its base, property taxes are three main keys. There's the assessed value of your property. That's important because it's not how much your house is worth, that's how much the city has assessed your property. There's the mill rate, and there's the mill rate factor. So the assessed value happens once every 4 to 5 years. Part of why this is a hot topic right now is we're falling in an assessed value time. You're going to have your properties assessed in the next year. The mill rate is based on the city of Regina requiring a specific amount of money from its taxes in order to pay infrastructure costs, pay employee costs, those type of things. And the mill rate factor is based on the property type or the location. This is going to be important. The other thing to keep in mind is that the mill rate is based on a pot of money that the city of Regina needs in order to fulfill its duties. We're also going to get into that. So as your property value increases or decreases, your property taxes also decrease or decrease. However, the city of Regina still requires a certain amount of money that they budget from those property taxes. And so as you may realize, as other values in the city increase or decrease, that mill rate is going to change because they still need that pot of money. And so as property values in downtown decrease, that mill rate needs to increase in order to accommodate for the large decrease. Put simply, as downtown properties decrease, you have to pay more money. And I physically mean you because every single one of you that owns a property has to pay property taxes. So why should you invest in downtown? Well, the lack of investment in downtown has caused the infrastructure to deteriorate and businesses leave. Due to many businesses leaving downtown, these buildings are vacant, they're not kept up to date, or they're being even torn down or burnt down, causing further reduction in property taxes that get spent to the city, aka you pay even more. In fact, downtown property values have decreased by 18% in the last 5 years, while all other Regina property values only decreased by 7%. It's a big number. And so what we did was we built a Power BI dashboard, and there's a lot going on here. I want you to focus specifically on this screen. This is the value of properties increasing over time up until 2019. It started to decrease down to 2023. As you can see, all property values decreased relatively low. When we focus specifically on downtown, that's a big drop. And it's a big drop considering that over time, they've been doing a pretty good job of increasing. Downtown properties are large. They're supposed to be of high value. Them decreasing is a big deal. And so the other part that we did, which I think is really cool, we spent a lot of time building an interactive dashboard. And so what we did was we broke down the city of Regina into each of its individual districts. And so you can actually go in and see how much your property taxes has been affected by this. What we've done here is we've actually filtered down on only the downtown properties. And I selected one at random. And you can see how the property value of it increased over time by 24%, then 61%, and then it dropped by 3%. And that's going to affect, as your property value continues to increase, you're going to pay more taxes. And so what you can do is we can actually visualize some of these buildings that maybe aren't occupied anymore or have burnt down, and we can see how much money the city of Regina is losing. And then on top of that, we can also play around with some what if factors. And so we can help the city identify, okay, if you don't do this investment and your downtown values continue to decrease by 10%, 15%, this is how the property taxes are going to be affected. Or conversely, if you start investing, bring these businesses in, and they start investing in downtown and these property values increase, how much are your constituents going to pay less? How much is that bang for your buck? How much is that return of value? Because realistically, that's the only way that we're going to be able to communicate with these people. It's money. And so, Judith, what are the benefits of investing in downtown?
When you invest in downtown, we start to see increased foot traffic. We start to see more employees downtown, more patrons downtown. Businesses increase their revenue, which increases their business retention. The more tenancies property owners have in their buildings, it increases their property values, and that increases their own investment in their downtown community.
Could you also say that increasing the property value downtown then increases foot traffic, which increases revenue, which increases retention, which increases the value?
We should have done this in like a little
You see
circle.
how this is a circle?
Yeah.
So as soon as you start with that initial investment, it's a perpetual machine. It's going to keep growing. It's going to keep getting better. And it's going to also want people to move to Regina, make it seem a little less dirty, less dingy downtown, as you've seen maybe in this picture.
These are stabs to my heart, just so you know. Yeah.
So why don't we talk about how you can invest in downtown?
So the city, I do a lot of work with the city. I was just there yesterday talking about office development policy, so that's great. How can they invest in downtown? As you know, right now, we're undergoing a lot of infrastructure investment.
11th Avenue.
11th. Yeah. We're hoping that they're going to increase investment in their intensification incentives. There are two incentives out there right now for rehabilitation of some of the older buildings, property tax abatements, but we need more. Those programs are oversubscribed. And then taking a chance on some pilot projects, whether it's a beer garden, murals, arts and beautification pilots with us as nonprofits, all of those go into investment in our downtown.
I've got one last question. What can I do? What can they do?
You can go spend your money downtown. You know, go to the Globe. The Globe's going to open up in a couple of months. You can go to a restaurant downtown, check out a local band playing at O'Hanlon's or at the Lancaster. You can call your counselor when something of importance comes up. Call your counselor. Let them know that downtown is a priority and how you think they should be voting on certain issues. And lastly, this is an election year, November 13th. Go and vote. Educate yourself on what the issues are. Hopefully, there will be candidates out there, good candidates out there. I know there's one from the food bank that will be running. Not Rebecca. But I think there hopefully will be a lot of candidates out there that realize the importance of downtown and make it part of their platform. And when they tell you that, vote for them. Make sure you get out there and vote. I think municipal politics has the lowest vote rate of all types of elections. So we need to get out there. If you don't like what's happening at City Hall, sorry, Taya. If you don't like what's happening at City Hall, this is your chance to make a change.
Thank you.
All right. Are we done?
Gain some time. I like it.
We were long last time.
Hey, thank you so much. We're going to turn to the judges and then we'll probably take a couple questions from the audience. I've got the folks online preparing some questions. Who's ready? Dorothy? No? Kate? Let's go, Kate.
So we're at a data-driven event, and so I'm kind of wondering how you used data to qualify the benefits that you guys listed of investing in downtown.
For sure. So while the data that we were using wasn't directly about the types of things investing will help with, most of the data that we were dealing with was ingesting the property values from the city of Regina to make the understanding of how much is it affecting everyone's property taxes. Some of the ways that you could find the data to quantify some of those components is taking a look at some of the other pilot projects that have been done around the city and seeing how those investments have improved some of those areas. Cities like Hamilton is a good example of areas that might be similar in population. Comparing to a Toronto or a Vancouver or a Calgary doesn't really make sense because we don't have the population base. So those types of things, while we didn't use it for this specific component, if we were to delve into this a little bit deeper, that's probably some of the areas that we would go.
So in addition to that, the data set, we had, I think it was 240,000 data points. So we took 3 separate years for property tax data for every property in the city. There's 80,000 per year. So that was synthesized into the modeling. And then we also, I guess, merged it with investments that we knew, quantified investments that we knew happened downtown during that time. We just didn't have time or to put it into the presentation. But yeah, we tried to merge different things and kind of by that correlation.
One more judge. Who wants it? Colleen?
Thanks so much for the great presentation. You brought an awesome energy to it. I realize that your nonprofit is a little bit different, but we've heard from 3 downtown nonprofits. So I guess the food bank's location is well, they will soon have a downtown location. So the YMCA, the Queen City Pharmacy, and the food bank have kind of painted pictures of different downtown realities. I know the infrastructure is important, but how would you folks use this data to help create a more equitable and kind of a socially minded downtown space?
That is a great question. So the reason why I wanted to do this type of work is because I'm actually going to use it when I have those conversations with city council and city administration. When I am lobbying, I hate that word, but advocating for programs and projects that I think are going to benefit our downtown and therefore our community, I need to have data, and this shows that. I'm working right now with one of the other judges on our pilot project called the Regina Street Team. So I'm pulling some of this information and pulling it into that realm of social conscience and helping to address some of the soft issues and not maybe. But what's really happening in our community, we try to balance that because our mandate is really about downtown. So I always say, yes, we have a very wide range of programs. A lot of them might not be exact mandate, they're mandate adjacent. And it wouldn't be a good idea to ignore things at the expense of others. So it all kind of goes into the pot, and I always throw out those numbers whenever I need to, depending on who's in front of me. Thank you. That was a great question. Appreciate that.
Can I make one
Yeah, go
quick
for it.
comment? The last thing that we want to chime in on, and Judith, I hope you're okay if I make this announcement, but obviously because Regina Downtown District, Business Improvement District is a little bit of a different nonprofit. If we were successful in the prizing today, we are going to be donating any of what we received to the other 4 nonprofits today, just as a heads up. So Now you can.
Yeah. We just have a question up here. I'll run up to you. Hey, here you go.
Hi, great presentation. Dr. Ugu here from the University of Regina. So I just want to find out, do you see any correlation with, the events that have come to be or what has become our new reality since COVID with companies moving away from the business district that's downtown? Do you think that is in any way associated with this? I mean, with hoteling, companies considering hoteling and remote work and all of that, is that in any way linked to this depreciation? Because it does appear that most of the depreciation happened within this period of the effect of COVID.
Called Sprinting for Good. It's not picking it up.
Oh, it won't pick it up in Saskatoon? Gotcha, okay. I do think there is somewhat of a correlation. However, the one thing to keep in mind is that while there is a lot of those components that are hoteling, there is a lot of businesses that are trying to go to downtown and try to improve some of those areas. I know, speaking from experience, last year there was a revitalization grant for some of the heritage properties to invest in those properties, just because the aging infrastructure is causing a lot of businesses to not want to move into those properties. I think that's a larger part of it, if I can be completely honest, is that those older properties are making it harder for those businesses to go in, which is causing them to not be invested in, which is causing them to deteriorate, which is causing businesses to not want to go in them anymore.
This is another great question because I was at council yesterday basically answering that question. Currently, there is an office development policy that requires any major office developments to occur in the downtown. So you could not just build an office or considering right now is loosening that up and allowing for those developments to happen outside of downtown. And as you can imagine, like our organization is very opposed to that happening. And we use the information out of this presentation to make that case when we're in front of council saying, the investments made in downtown, you're diluting those investments, allowing these office developments to be developed outside of downtown and perhaps pull tenancies out of downtown and into those suburban locations for all sorts of reasons. Personally, having those developments occur outside of downtown, they create sprawl. We're trying to become a more transit-oriented city. Transit really works when you have a strong downtown and employment base, which can draw in from other parts of the city. It just creates more wear and tear on our roads when we're building and creating these destination locations well outside of the downtown. So I think that's part of the importance of this data. So when I am going to council, it's not just rhetoric, it's actually saying, hey, downtown is 1% of our land area. We constitute 4% of our assessed value, and we contribute 7% of the entire tax base. So yes, you need to care about downtown, and you need to take that in consideration when you're making a decision on this office development policy. So that's the long answer, but I had it at the ready because I said it yesterday. So I planted that, by the way.
Regina Business Improvement District. Thank you. And last up, but certainly not least, we have the Al Ritchie Community Association. Denise Simard and Scott Moeller. Welcome, guys. You're gonna have to share, unfortunately. Okay.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Excellent. So first off, thank you so much. My name is Denise Simard, or Dennis Simard for those Anglophones in the room, which is probably everyone. I am the executive director for the Al Ritchie Community Association. I'm so thankful to be here today. I'll be thanking the team for sure by the end, but just know that we feel extremely privileged to be in this room. and extremely privileged to be with all these other great presenters and everybody who's here. And the side effect of all this, which great, we're in a competition tonight, is there's a lot of us that are actually going to be connecting after this because we've gotten to know each other so much better as nonprofits and realize how many more things we have in common than we actually thought. And so thanks for Data for Good for sort of leading us down that path. So again, Al Ritchie Community Association, we are a small, very geographically defined association. We represent the Al Ritchie neighborhood. And so the Al Ritchie neighborhood represents about 10 to 12,000 people. The association is mandated to basically serve the needs of that community. And today I'm going to sort of tell you the story of this association over the course of the last couple of years. So first off, the motto of our association is something we're very proud of, but it's also something that's going to be showcased in everything that we're going to be talking about tonight. And it's neighbors by chance, community by choice. And so that's what we really believe in our community, and that's how we work. And to be fair, everybody in this room tonight is part of our community, so thank you so much for being here. The story of Al Ritchie for me anyway started just a little under 3 years ago. The Al Ritchie Community Association was going through some pretty hard times. By the way, we have a couple of our board members that are standing at the back over here. Well, it's not standing, sitting at the back over here. And so these are also my bosses, so I better do this well tonight. I got approached, and I approached the city of Regina at the time because the Al Ritchie Association was really going through some hard times, and there was just a lot of stuff that was going on that didn't make the association in a good place. And I've been running another association, another neighborhood, Eastview, for the last 10 years. And the city kind of just said, well, we think you know what you're doing at this point, and so would you be willing to sort of help us out in another neighborhood that needed some help? So I came in. There was a few board members who were still on a board. At the time, there was only 3 of them. And basically they asked me, come see if you see what we think we're seeing. And I was basically brought in by the city of Regina and the board to take a really close look at the association. And I'll just tell you where we started from. And where we started from was there was $7 in the bank account. There was 3 staff members, 2 were on medical leave. It was a unionized site. We had the board and the city at the time had a lot of questions about sort of the transparency of what was going on at the time with the board and even some of the staff. And so I was asked to come in and sort of assess it and see what could happen from there. And the board at the time basically decided to say, okay, well, Dennis, paint us the picture. And so the next slide for us is basically, this is what we found. There was basically a lack of direction. And there was honestly at that point a moment of crisis. And that moment of crisis made us discover a lot of things about ourselves for those of us who were at the association, the board. And to be fair, we had 3 board members left. They were the only 3 that kind of lived through this crisis moment. And if I can describe the board in one word, it was exhausted. It was 3 volunteers who basically were trying to do the best they can in a pretty difficult situation. And then my job was to then go talk to all the funders, because I'll be super honest with you. When we found that we went through all of the financials, the organization hadn't had a budget. They weren't sure how they were spending their money. And what we found was $140,000 deficit. Basically, they had spent everything they had accumulated over the course of the last 20 years of little surpluses every year to give them a little bit of a cushion. The team that was there at the time made it disappear. And the other part of that, I'll be super transparent with you guys, and we're feeling very vulnerable tonight because we're telling you all our truths. But I think it speaks to why this is so important, because it tells our story, is that we also had to go back to all of our funders at that time and tell them the truth of what we found, and tell them that, yeah, we overspent. But more than that is, there's some of you funders where you guys have been getting reports for the last couple of years from certain people that were working for this organization that were speaking false, that were basically not telling you the whole picture. And they were saying they were doing things that they weren't actually doing. And so I showed up as the new guy saying, hey, I'm telling you the whole story, but please don't run away. Please continue to believe in us. Please take a chance and know that if we're telling you the whole truth, it's because we're actually really trying to make sure that we're going to head in a different direction. So our association basically started with this huge deficit, and then we spent the next year trying to create some stability, trying to create some trust with our funders, trying to create, more than anything else, a connection with our community, which we had honestly lost. And there was nothing at that time which was really clear for us about which direction we should take and what we should do. But for those of you who know me, I like a challenge. And we decided immediately to try to find the good people in our community, and we reached out to them, and we really wanted to see how we could work together. And so we started with some simple things. We could do certain things without any cost. We could do simple things without doing too much work. And so one of those things was clothing donation. So believe it or not, so we started just by saying, hey, we need clothes and the community needs clothes. Can you help us out? Can you bring some clothing in for us? And so that first year, we collected 6,400 pounds of clothes and we handed it out to the community. The second year, we're like, okay, clearly there's a need for this. We did it again, except that time we went 35,000 pounds. Now, the only reason I can even tell you this stuff is because we had a whole bunch of data that wasn't good, but the one thing we did right is the moment we decided to do this clothing and food is we wanted to have a transaction that was taking place with our community, but that would make it a human moment that's not a cash transaction. So what we did is for every time you come in, you actually take up a blue basket like you're shopping in a store, and you come into our clothing store and you fill up your blue basket and you come to our counter, and then we weigh the basket. The transaction is the weight. That's how we tracked it at first. I'm really happy we did that because it allowed us to have some statistics. To be clear, we weren't adding them up. It's not until these guys showed up and told me, what could we track, Dennis? What is there that you guys have for data? And I said, well, I think I have this. And so we started with that. And then the next thing we did was our food. So the first year, we basically, in regards to pounds, we had 400 pounds of food. We didn't know how to do it. We didn't know how to collect it. We registered for a couple of the food rescue programs. And the food rescue programs actually tell you how much weight that they save. They'll tell you, we just donated to you 100 pounds. So that's how we got the 400 pounds the first year. Then we got better at this, and we now had this scale, so people could also come in now, grab their blue basket, go collect some food, and then they could weigh that basket on top of the food that was collecting. So in that second year, we went from 400 pounds to 7,900 pounds. I don't know if you can see the small writing under that. Next year after that, we went to 27,400 pounds. So clearly we had a need, but the thing we didn't have was we didn't really have a plan. We knew we were doing something and we were trying to figure it out. And one of the things that was the biggest thing that these guys helped us figure out was, how could I tell if what the Al Ritchie was doing was actually helping the people from Al Ritchie? It was the first question I asked. And it was really the big get was, are we doing it right? And are we serving the right people? And the truth is I had no way of guessing except, could I stand at the door and go, do you live in the Al Ritchie? And so came up the genius idea of others, not mine, to sort of say, well, there is the easiest way of doing that, which is to ask them for their postal code. And so only starting this year, and this is only for 1 month, we've tracked the postal code of our clients that were coming in. And we happen to have postal codes on a lot of our registration forms for some of our other programs. And we started putting that all together. And so these guys, through the geniuses that they are, were able to provide me for the first time an idea of who was I actually serving, who was the organization serving. And then we find out it's 35% of the people from our community, 65% from outside. Immediate question was, is that a problem? Because geographically, we were defined to serve the people from the Al Ritchie neighborhood. Does that mean we've done something wrong? And really, what we come to realize is it's not really wrong. It just means that they picked us. We're clearly providing something for them that they want, that they need. And then we started looking at the data better. And so this is a 5-minute drive from us. And what we realize is there's a lot of people in that circle that are not from the Al Ritchie, but we're in proximity to them. And so what that allowed us to figure out is that 50% of the people that we're serving live close to us, but may not live in our neighborhood. And then just to give you an idea of numbers, that first year we served 6,000 people, then we went to 12,000, then we went to almost 26,000. So it was telling us that we had to meet a need. And then when we started looking at the bigger city, we realized we were really helping people from everywhere. And by the way, as a guy who's writing the grants, I have the luxury of being the executive director, unlike some of these other folks who are basically telling management what to do. I'm management and I'm informing myself, which is awesome. Because I get now to tell all of our funders this story of saying, it's true that we only serve the Al Ritchie, but it's actually much more than that. And we're serving a larger need. So I think what we started doing is basically trying to create these data sets to really try to allow us to better understand everything. And what we really wanted to do was create for me a space where I could actually have all of our key data in one eye shot on my screen. Well, while we were doing that, what we did want to recognize was all of our early adopters. Every single square that you see on here, this is a funder, a donor, or somebody who stepped up in the first 2 years. Regardless of the fact that we didn't really have a plan, they clearly saw that we were doing something right and therefore believed in us. So at this point, with data in hand, we started looking at what can we do better and how can we do it better. And these are great examples. We are serving thousands and thousands of people food every single year. But you know what's really scary for us? 60% of the time, my pantry's empty. So I could be feeding that much more if we had that much more food, if we had that many more connections, if I could have the food bank give me some food, if I could figure out all these other things. We needed to modify our programs. We'll see this slide. Actually, it's the next one if you want to skip to it real quick. We were able to track every program about attendance every single month. And one of the things that I was able to see for the first time is we had some programs that had very low attendance or none, and we weren't tracking it. The staff was basically just saying, well, nobody showed up today, but it was never brought up to me to be able to make decisions. So we were able to really quick start identifying programs that were at the wrong time, on the wrong day. And once we started switching those around, all of a sudden attendance shot up. We'll go back to the slide before, if that's all right. The other thing too, as a guy who writes the grants all the time, we often feel like we're being led by our funders. But what it really allowed us to do is this. Instead of having them lead us, we now lead them. We tell them what we need because now I have data to show it. We tell them what we need because we know exactly the types of things and services that we could provide and the ones that are being used in our community. And this is a big shout out to the people in the back of the room. Our leaders, we had 3 people who believed in the association, who stuck through it in the hardest times. Now we have 7. 2 of the new ones are sitting back here. You want to know what the best part of this whole story is? Through the actions we've taken, we didn't even publicize that we wanted new board members. People saw what we were doing and people showed up and said, I like what you're doing. Can we be on the board? I've never had that happen before. Never. Okay, next one. So one of the things for me as a nonprofit, which is really tough, and I hate it, I don't talk about it to my staff, but it's the reality, and for those of you who are leaders, you know this, is it's tough to have enough money to do everything we need in a year. So this data now allows me to have on an instant glance how much money I have in my bank account based on how much we're average spending now for all of our programs every month, tells me how much my survivability is right now. I know that I have 2 months worth of money in my bank account right now, and that's my job to figure out. I'll skip the next couple slides. We've got the food pantry, same thing, amazing data. We now are able to actually account for how much weight we're handing out, what the value of that weight is based on the Canadian standard. So I can now talk to my funders and say, we're handing out X amount of thousands of dollars every single year. We're going to skip to this slide right away, which is our volunteers. And by the way, I know that's supposed to be a you, but please just ignore that. The other part of this whole story, I talked about how we were able to attract our board, but the other thing that we were able to do is attract our volunteers. We have volunteers who run our food pantry and our clothing store every single day for free. We have 15 women who show up all the time and they give us 100 hours every month for nothing, just for the fact that we say thank you. And now, because we track everything and we track everything in regards to pounds, we've upgraded to a second washing machine so we can process more clothing. Those seniors and those women and other volunteers are showing up all the time, and now they say, I want to be part of this story. We've never had this much ease to recruit our volunteers. So last slide of the night, this is our story, but I do have one ask, which is completely apart from all of this, and I know I've run out of my time. This is a QR code. For any of you who would like to support a small nonprofit like us, this is actually our 50-50. We're a charity. We every day survive because people give us money. Right now, it's sitting at $1,200+. And if anybody wants to be part of it, the draw's in a couple days, and we'd really appreciate your support. I don't feel bad about asking for money, but it's part of what we do every single day. Every single dollar that comes to us, guys, is helping somebody in our community. I guarantee you we're doing all the right things right now. And what Data for Good has allowed us to do is make sure that we're doing it even better. I want to take the time to thank Unadi, Scott, Zach, Charbel, my entire team that's worked with me, because they're completely redefining who we're going to be for the next couple of years.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry. So it's great. Thank you so much. Turn it over to the judges. Who's up? Two questions. We got 2 questions. Taya.
It's amazing to see what you were able to do with the data that you had before, and I'm wondering if this process has made you think about new kinds of data that you really want to see happening and how it's gonna impact future programming.
Yeah, so one of the things we didn't talk about is there's a time limitation, is the team and Unadi and everybody else, we actually now have a form, a digital form that I'm actually going to have all of our volunteers, every time you register for a program now, it's not going to be on everything was on paper before. Now we're literally going to have a couple tablets, one that is on the program side, one that's on the service side, and people will actually be able to select for themselves, sign themselves up for our programs, weigh their own product. Everything is going to be automated, and all of that's now going to go into some data sets, which I'll be able to use. So this is the start of what it is. But for example, the stuff for the first time now, I can tell you what one program hour costs at my association. Just to create one program for 1 hour for my 0 to 6 program, I can tell you exactly what it costs me to do. I was never able to do that before because it was always like, how do you calculate the wage? And then everything. Now I have that. It's new data, which is going to allow me to, tomorrow, we're already thinking about programs for the fall. Okay, is that going to be a 12-hour program? Times 12, the number I've already gotten. Now I know exactly what the program is going to cost me. I know what funders I can be chasing for those types of things. And the other part of this too is, like, to keep my pantry full, we estimate it's about $250,000 that's going to cost me to keep it full all the time if I was paying for it. So now I know that Mosaics, Nutrient, and all these other guys, I can go out and start asking the big asks because I have the data to back up why I need X amount of dollars and how many thousands of people I'll be able to serve.
Thank you. One more. Dorothy. Sorry.
That was an excellent overview of Al Ritchie and what's been happening there for the last number of years. Congratulations. Similar to the question I had asked earlier, I think to the wellness group, there are a lot of community associations in Regina. So how much of this data or templates is shared between, you said you came from Eastview, and so what process is in place to share the learnings?
Good question. Yeah. The truth about the nonprofit sector, and we even found this in the class, is that everything is built so that we're silos. Everything is built so that we work basically to take care of ourselves, our strategic planning, the way we work with our boards, even the way we talk to our community. It's all about what we can provide you and then how we can analyze that data and provide that to our funders. What I think needs to change, and we're going to start doing that. I know we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation, and we're going to figure out ways in which we can work better. The problem is that it needs, unfortunately, to be leader-led. We are going to have to make that change. It's not going to come from the city. It's not going to come. There are opportunities where they put us all in the same room, but it's always about, tonight we're going to do a governance training. It's never about, let's talk about our best things that we do and how we can better utilize those things together. So for now, anyway, it's going to take us to make that change and be the change. And to be fair, like everything we've done here, which is amazing, and I know we have so much more to do, I honestly feel like we're maybe serving 20% of what my community needs. There's so much need out there right now. We're not equipped to do it all. Already just the fact that we're feeding them for free, we're clothing them for free, and anything that's benefited out of that is because I have this team of volunteers who decided to show up and not cost me anything to run it. Because if I had to do that paid, I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. And so while all that's happening, I still have all my programs on the other side. And one of the unique things about the El Richie I'll just mention is a lot of the nonprofits out there, the only way they survive is because they have to charge for everything. Charge to be part of the program, charge a registration fee, charge a t-shirt, whatever. We are unique. I'm really proud to say that I was talking to another organization yesterday. They say 8% of their programs are free, 92 are charged. Flip that for us. 92% of what we do, and now I have the data to back that up, 92% of what we do has no cost to the public. 8% does. And so it's really only our adult and our senior programs where it's a specialized service like Tai Chi and things where we charge. Everything else is free for us.
Thanks again. Everybody give it up. All righty, folks. So now we're going to take just a little detour. Scott Wells here, chapter co-lead, is going to lead the judges out of the room to do their deliberation. In the meantime, and by the way, I'll also mention, if any of you want to reach out to these groups, I mean, I'm sure they'll be around a little bit after, but feel free to reach out to us at Data for Good. Shoot us a note with your question and we can make sure it gets to the right person, okay? Scott, I'll ask you and the judges to leave the room. We've got a couple things planned here. So just wanted to put, just give me 1 second here. So one thing I'm going to give you all a chance to do really quickly. Well, we're putting a second one up there for everybody, hey? So what we're going to do too is we're just going to, actually, Jasmeet, would you want to log in quickly? I think oh no, it's over in Firefox, okay. So we are just going to put a QR code up on the screen for the audience choice. So I'll just put this up real quick because they're going to be deliberating right away. So I'll ask you right now, and we've pasted it in the chat as well. So please fill this out. This is really just, which one spoke to you the most, which one had the biggest impact for yourself. This will be the result of that Audience Choice Award. And again, those of you folks who are on virtual, you can click on the link that we shared in the chat. So feel free to get in there and do your voting. Just take a moment here. Everybody's winners, though. I'm not competitive. You're all winners. This is awesome. Actually, this is fantastic. Let's see here. Have everybody got the QR code? Okay. One other thing I just want to refer everybody to is the virtual program. So we did include 3 of the dashboards that the different groups built as the last slide on the virtual program. So if you want to get in there and play with the Power BI dashboards, take a look at it. If you have experience in Power BI and just want to see what people put together, or if you're new to Power BI and just want to see how it works, here's another QR code for you. You can get in there, check those things out. Dylan, I'd love to throw yours up on there too if you're able to. So feel free to send it to me. Awesome. We'll get this out after the presentation as well, so that everybody has it and they can access the dashboards the groups put together. I'm also going to invite Barrett up because he wants to show us something cool. This is, if you folks need to kind of refresh yourselves, they're going to be deliberating for the next 10 minutes. So feel free to take a bio break if you need to. We're treating this like the hardcore data professional hour because Barrett's going to show us an AI application he built to help them track some of the data I assume for Food Bank. Okay, I'm going to hook you up and he'll get set up. And yeah, we'll leave it to Barrett.
Thank you. I'm just going to pull this up and kind of show you how we kind of intended we could use this serverless SQL on dbeaver to instantly make our organization more modern. So let's see if I can.
Why don't I hook you up here? So you go ahead. I'll worry about this.
Sure. All righty, you guys hear me there? So in order to show you how our serverless SQL on dbeaver can make us instantly modern without that large financial overhead, we have a little AI app that takes in some text and generates the data so we don't have to. So I'm gonna go over to our donation entry here. And I'm gonna say, it's one of these keyboards here. I'm gonna take 3 cans of beans, 3 pounds each. We got 15 boxes of breakfast cereal, 500 grams each. We've got 1 crate of carrots for some reason. And that's about 60 pounds. Then we'll take 30 loaves of bread. And then we'll say 5, 10-pound bags of all lunch meats. And then we'll just generate some of that data instead of having to type all that out, which is kind of the biggest barrier for people that are new to data entry, is actually learning how to interact with those tables or even that paper. So here's how we can kind of just go ahead and be lazy about it. Here we are. So we've generated some data, some food items, some groups, quantities, some weights, some estimated shelf lives, and if we want to discard it or not. So I'm just going to say that's great. Then I come back here and I'm going to find in our inventory, we can see exactly what we've got in stock. So the cool thing here is right away, even though we're not entirely certain about the integrity of data because we just made this all up, we can start to see these expiration dates that are coming down the pipes here. And I can say, oh, it looks like we've got a lot of fruits coming down here. We can't possibly, dump these into hampers in the time that we have allotted before that date. So I'm gonna see what I can do. And I'm gonna pass these off to the Al Ritchie or these other associations that could really benefit from these. And in that way, we're gonna keep ourselves from wasting that overstock without having that channel for properly utilizing it. Sweet. And if you're interested in how dbeaver can be set up, we got some little pamphlets down here you can connect to your computers. Thanks.
Thanks again. So kind of neat, hey? I thought that was kind of a cool little detour. Really appreciated that. Just also wanted to just show you real quickly a couple of the dashboards that we've got. I know you folks can access them yourselves. Just a chance for you to see some of the stuff folks built. In particular, I thought that we had a nice, you want to see that Al Ritchie Community Association dashboard, one we just looked at. Are you in here? What am I doing? I don't know if my button's working here. There we go. So, if you folks haven't used Power BI, it can be a really interactive tool. If you have, it's an interactive tool. The nice thing about this dashboard is they've really organized everything together to make it nice and easy and user-friendly. So, board members for Al Ritchie, if you want to take a look at this one, you just got some buttons to click through. So if you want to see their KPIs, they now have the ability to track in real time some of this. And you know what? Some of the stuff we saw there with the AI application, I feel like this could come in handy with collecting some of this. I remember when we did this, they were filling out like those paper, like, I don't know, I'd never seen them before, but like these big paper sheets where people just fill in the boxes. Isn't that right, Dennis? Yeah. So I thought it was really neat that we now have got it digitally. And then, taking that a step further, what else can we use to improve that data and improve that data collection? And even just thinking of wellness pharmacy, right? Like this is some of the type of stuff you can use to improve the outcomes. Is there anything else you guys want me to highlight while I'm over here? Keep looking. Unfortunately, this is a reality of Power BI. Once in a while, you got to get the right permissions. And yeah, we didn't give you guys the right permissions. Sorry, Moeller. The nice thing here too is you can kind of, I really love when people apply colors to these things. I'm a real color-oriented individual, but there's certainly an art to this where, I know it looks like it's just a lot of random colors everywhere. A lot of work goes into deciding which things you want to emphasize and which things you don't want to emphasize. Like for instance, I can tell at a glance that pickleball is a pretty popular sport at Al Ritchie, hey? Yeah, shout out to pickleball. But we got to pick up our numbers in March, eh? Free haircuts. So if you folks didn't hear it online, they had a volunteer come in and provide free haircuts to the community. Fresh Cut Fridays, and that is a popular program. Oh, then the volunteer went back to work. So hey, Al Ritchie, they're looking for a new hairstylist. So if you got the skills, or you just have some some scissors, like have at her. All right, financials, takes a little bit to understand. The unfortunate thing is there was a lovely little graph over here that looked a lot like this, where it kind of has a nice breakdown of where the income sources came from. I don't know why this one worked and why the other one didn't. The miracle of technology, hey? But the nice thing here, though, is one of these cool visuals in Power BI where you can see the total income they've got coming in, and they were able to intelligently figure out, how much is coming from the government of Canada, how much is from the United Way grant, how much is from other community associations, how much from the city of Regina. And one of the things you immediately see here is just how much for some of these nonprofits comes from one or two big funders. And so this is one of these important things around even, we're hoping we can connect the groups to find better funding sources, different funding sources. And so again, shout out to the lottery there. Well, I'll get that back up in a moment here. Financial portion, Charbel in camp with the riders and putting together all the financials for Al Ritchie. So thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Again, some clothing statistics, some food pantry. I imagine these are useful. Scott, are we ready to go back in? Not yet, we're going. We're doing good. We saw a cool application from Baird, a new way to collect data. It's excited. Yes, sir. We've got some demographic information. So I'm curious, what do you guys learn from this one?
Better understand who our clientele was. And so we actually broke down. So the demographic data was a way for us to start breaking down who composes the Al Ritchie neighborhood. And not only who's there, but then who's walking in our door and what's the discrepancy. Trying to figure out, for example, like we have a lot of our programs which are 0 to 6s. And so if we know that for our 0 to 6s, we have 100 people coming through our door every month, but in my neighborhood, we have 250 people that have a child between the age of 0 and 6. Why am I not getting that full market share? Like, what am I missing, or how am I not publicizing it correctly, or what programs am I not doing? And so these are all ways for us to now have data points to try to figure out that kind of information for us.
Sure. Thanks again. I'm going to move to another one of the dashboards. I think there's another couple of them here. Just give me one moment. I think, let's check out Queen City Wellness Pharmacy. We didn't see too much of the Power BI dashboard over there, but I'm really curious what kind of things you put together. So the nice thing here, and I love when there's a title page, by the way, any of you who are data analysts, make sure you put a title page on these things so people understand what you're doing, right? Hey, I used to be an analytics manager, so I can't take the stripes off the tiger or whatever you want to say, right? But actually, if you want to think about some of those, one of the things I thought was really cool about your presentation too is just how, everybody is at a different level in terms of data collection. And so a lot of our data analysts who join the program or join us in Data for Good, they want to get in, they want to, start putting stuff together. But one of the biggest impacts that Queen City Wellness had was just even getting this data and making it visible. It's one of these things where even just doing something small like that can have a massive impact. And again, John, thank you so much for bringing your expertise in data collection. I think we are about to give you an applause. So let's give John an applause for that. We in the data space, we spend a lot of time thinking like the data's clean, the data's perfect. We're gonna, just get this lovely dashboard together that does everything. And it was funny because we started the program, we were like, oh, right, data collection. You have to actually collect the data first. And so John brought that expertise, and thank you again. Also, it's kind of interesting, and I don't know if you want to add anything to this one, Sarah, but it's interesting to see the number of cab rides that break down. And for aspiring data analysts, it's always interesting when you see outliers like this. I'd kind of be curious what that data means, right? Like, why is it, it's kind of got its ebb and flow, but then there's big spike in October, big spike in August. Sarah, does that mean anything to you? No? I heard no, but
what it lies up to next to the YWCA's, because I wonder too, like a lot of our cab rides are sending people to addiction services. And so I wonder if a lot of their overdoses are attached to the same time, because a lot of times when people are overdosing, then we're sending them to addiction services. And we weren't collecting the data when we were sending people then. We were only collecting how many cab rides. It's also told me that instead of sending cab rides, I could just hire a driver. Save me a little money.
and that's the type of things we want you to start thinking about, right? And when you come through the program again, we're going to get even better, right?
I just, as you were mentioning that, and then you connected it with the YWCA and everything, those are some of our highest spike times at the Regina Food Bank too. We get a huge spike right around October, like just end of summer, start of the school year. And we always associate it with the start of the school year typically, but that creates an interesting discussion about what perhaps in that, yeah.
We're doing data analysis in the wild here, folks. Wild data indeed. Let's see what else we got here. It's always a nice little surprise for us when we get to look through. Oh, cool. Wow. We have a real experienced data professional over here. This is awesome. Got the icons and everything. So look at that number of coffee cups served broken down. We have that total number from Sarah, and now we've got it by a month.
You know what? And it's not that we didn't do it then. I probably just couldn't get the receipts for the months that they weren't there. So that's why it's not clear.
The January where the data is empty. We just didn't have data for that month.
Well, we'll never know, but I would expect coffee cups would go up in January though, so, right? Let's see what else we got here. Oh, whoops, sorry, I was gonna look at these, and now let's look at the one with the money. What do we got here? Oh, okay, this is just the summary? A second, just give me a second here. Okay, so total cups served, or total cab rides, total meals served. Do we have a breakdown in meals? Did you find a way to break that one down? Oh, okay.
I think we started putting it in there and then we didn't know who we thought we would do a running total. Probably part of it is that was again how many I was buying from Carmichael.
Sorry, I'll get you. We're getting into it.
Sorry, it was how I had to do this retrospectively because I wasn't collecting it. So I had to go back and see how many I was buying from Carmichael. And then I talked to the food bank and Rebecca was able to give me information on how many pounds they had donated to us. But it doesn't include what we were getting for food rescue, which we get quite a bit of that every year. So, or every week. So I don't know. Our numbers are higher than that. That's just. Yeah.
It's still a good number and it's very interesting. And food bank, now it's up to you guys. Give them the meals, right? Hey, Al Ritchie too. Al Ritchie. And these ones get a little bit more intense. Were these a little hard to collect or?
Yeah, so this was, sorry, so this was again just in the month, and it was also hard to figure out what we were going to count. So the emergency response type, there's a lot of things that we do. So it's like, what do we consider an emergency? Well, somebody got macheted. I'll consider that an emergency. It wasn't in the pharmacy. They just came inside afterwards. But we still had to deal with it. Yeah, it's very safe in the pharmacy. I'm there. The needle demand trend, what we were hoping to show over time was how many needles we're handing out, because we handed 137,000 needles a year, which is a good safety thing. But when pipes were taken away, we want to see how that affects the needle trend. And so that'll be interesting to see as things go on, because we never were really calculating how many pipes we were handing out before. And we're still have that trickle of pipes. So quick harm reduction talk. The reason we the reason we want pipes funded by the government is because every time somebody uses a pipe means that they don't have to use a needle. And when somebody uses a needle, it causes not just the risk of HIV and Hep C, which of course we've got data around, but it causes things that are harder to measure, like infections in the skin and in the blood that cause like infective endocarditis. And that person I was talking about that was on oxygen, it was because she had little bits of pill pieces that ended up in her lungs and it breaking up her heart. And so not handing out pipes increases that, which is going to cause a huge increase in our healthcare costs, all because we don't want to, it's not a good look for the government to give out needles. So trying to show that we're not solving substance dependency by taking away pipes, we're just causing higher risk things. And that is my TED Talk.
And thank you for the TED Talk. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move to the last dashboard. Just take a look at YWCA Regina. And this was an interesting one. We had a lot of questions on this one. I really want to dig into this a little bit more. Does anybody from the team want to come up? It might be easier than me running over there and maybe speak to any of this. Not obligated, because I'll just keep going, but. Yep. Here you go, yeah, go. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, as I had mentioned before, all this is part data. It's not even complete data. If you could go to the next.
Yeah. Let's try to hold it close to them.
Yeah, no, the next one. Yep. Yeah, this is by far the most complete data that I have of the whole thing. So as I was saying, this is just a collection of incident reports, the incidents that happen, various incidents that happen. I have data from basically from 2022, 2023, and definitely all this is full data. 2021 is still partial. You can see from, so we have different locations at which incidents happen. Somebody could be critically unwell at one of the residences. Somebody at one of our locations or residences could have had an overdose case. So everything gets recorded. And what I have done is, as an initial phase, initially, as I said, it was editable PDF. They used to write it down. They used to attach it or scan it, print it, scan it, send it. Sometimes it would arrive 2 days or 3 days if the staff hadn't forgotten, because at the time of whatever is they're handling, that's more important rather than writing a report. So I wanted something that the staff would not have to spend time on. So I just kind of made a Excel sheet with a little macro behind. What they do is they fill it up as they would fill the original form, and they hit a submit button. The moment they hit a submit button, it converts into a PDF, attaches to an email, and the email goes wherever it has to go to. On top of that, it also records data from that report, whatever data I want captured. For example, I wanted which staff was handling. So the names, as I said, were hidden. Which staff was handling in a particular period. From that data, the team could decide which days of the week out of the total collected data is the incident higher. Now, if you see, Sunday is presumably higher. Now so then you can basically ask a question, why is it high on a Sunday? Why is it less on a Wednesday? Right? Similarly, ambulance, as I said, was the most called service, followed by police. Drug poisoning is the highest, 132 cases, followed by client unwell, client escalated, injured, blah, blah, blah. Again, this location, this is data, I think, up till March, if I'm not wrong, right? The incident? Yeah, up till March of this year. This location has the highest number of incidents occurring. So maybe the staff needs to be more debriefed, maybe we need to have more staff there. So all this data, and look at these two lines, the trend of incidents. If you look at the yellow line and the light blue line, you will see similar pattern, right? It rises here it rises sharply, but both rise. Then there is a peak here, and it falls sharply, right? Then again, you see these two lines, they are similar. So this will give you and then you can decide which. So this is the April month. April is falling down.
We got him coming back.
So this is how we did with whatever we did, and it's just a part of.
Thank you, Moe. Thank you, everybody who decided to show off their dashboards. We appreciate that. We have the judges back. So the deliberation's finished, Scott? All right, Kate, come on up. So we're inviting Kate Nimigears, the Director of AI from Focus Systems. Once again, we really want to thank Focus Systems for making a generous donation to the nonprofits here tonight. So Kate, I'll let you take it away from here.
Sure.
Want to look it up?
I don't really have a pocket. I guess I have a purse if you want. One sec. I don't think it's worth it. All right. So first, I just want to thank you all for the incredible work that you put in. I think that all of these projects were amazing. And as you can probably tell from the amount of time that it took us in the judges room, it was down to the wire. You all did amazing jobs. It was an excellent effort. And the social change that is being made by each of these organizations is utterly incredible. So thank you.
30-second audience.
Oh, do we know I don't know the People's Choice.
Oh, okay. Scott, can you check that?
We'll do third and second. Well, we'll do third first, and then I'll wait to hear what you guys voted on. So third place, are they gonna come down? Sure. Come on down, handshakes and stuff. Is the YWCA. Congratulations. Incredible work.
And I'll just add that we
Yeah,
thought
someone
about
take pictures.
we thought about opting for yeah, come on up, Sal, to take a picture. We thought about opting for big checks, but turns out they're really expensive and we don't want to waste a donation. So apologies.
We'd rather donate that money that we would have spent on the check.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You.
All right, second place, also an incredible job, Al Ritchie Community Center.
Al Ritchie.
I was gonna say, you guys got to get the board members all coming down for the photo too, eh?
Oh, get the board members. Smell a big donation coming, or big board grant is what I hear.
Yeah. Perhaps stand forward. Your faces are bright.
Yeah. Comment was Dennis is too tall. Thanks, everyone. Well done. Well done. Scott, how are we looking over there?
We are still waiting on People's Choice. So I guess I'll just take this moment again to thank all of you. You've done an incredible job, and I have gone through many walks of life. I wasn't always a director, and there have been times when I spent a lot of time in Regina's downtown or with people who were perhaps coming to the food bank or the YWCA, or probably not at the time. I'm not sure how long the wellness center has been in place, but the people who would use it now. So on behalf of them, I really thank you all. And yeah, just overwhelming seeing all the good work that's being done.
And Focus Systems too. I just wanted to again thank you, folks. They are a software consulting and services company here in Regina, and so they're always looking for some shout outs, even just to follow them on LinkedIn. I expect, right?
Yeah, I mean, a majority of our posts are now hiring. So if there are data professionals out there looking, that's a great place to start. Yeah, but also, I mean, like, I'm working on data projects myself. And so seeing the impact that they can have when connecting with a nonprofit is so inspiring.
All right, everybody, we figured it out. Everybody want to give us a drum roll?
Yeah, drum roll for people's choice.
And your winner is audience's choice goes to Al Ritchie.
All right.
Imaginary big check to you guys. Imaginary big check.
Excellent that we took 2 photos. You can use one for each. All right. And last but not least, a really, really huge congratulations to our winner, Queen City Wellness.
Queen City. Woo! Way to go. Come on down, folks. Let's get a picture. Want to come? No, you're good? You're good? Wow. Well done. Well done. Wow.
Wonderful.
Maybe come stand up just a little bit and get the picture there.
Oh, they've got it. They got a professional
You
camera.
guys want to come a little closer and yeah. You're good. You're good. You got a good one?
You got that zoom.
All right, everybody.
Incredible
Queen
work,
City Wellness
everyone.
Center, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Kate. And again, I just wanted to thank everybody who came out tonight. I know we've said a lot of thank yous so far, but you know, obviously not going to get away without a little bit of promotion about Data for Good Saskatchewan. So again, we're always trying to do more work for the community and trying to improve the services that we can provide. Everybody who you've seen tonight, all the data professionals, all the mentees, and every one of the nonprofits is really passionate about having that social impact. And that's really why we're here today. So if you want to volunteer or sign up for either our next event or future program, you know, we can use help with any kind of volunteer work you want to support us with. It's not just data and analytics that we want to do, even just administration, helping us get these things. You saw me running around the whole night. That's, you know, running these things takes quite a bit of effort, and, you know, we're kind of lifting that load ourselves. So any help that you want to give us, we appreciate it. Some folks have already signed up and they said, hey, you know, there hasn't been anybody contacted us. You know, we're busy setting up the event. So once we get more folks, we can, you know, act on these things a little bit more quickly. And then those of you in the nonprofit sector, please, you know, tell your friends, because we really want to help you. We want to set up projects with you. We want to work with you, whether it's in Regina, Saskatoon, Yorkton, Bigger, wherever. If you are doing data, if you're a nonprofit and you need that help, reach out to us because we'll try to help you set something up. Okay. So again, thanks to everybody. Thank you for this fantastic evening. And yeah, we're planning on trying to run this again in the future. We're still figuring out what that looks like, but we'll keep in touch. Get on the website, sign up, volunteer, nonprofit, senior data analyst, whatever it happens to be. So thanks everybody and have yourselves a great night. Thank you, Saskatoon. Thanks for coming out. We really appreciate it. Tell your friends. Thank you, virtual. I saw Data Management Association Vancouver. I saw Jeff, one of our big board members of National. So, you know, we got Canada's attention. This is fantastic. Little old Regina. Thanks, everyone. And anybody who's in the groups, let's come on up. Let's get a group photo. Come on, let's go. So everybody else, if you want to stick around, for sure, these folks will be hanging out. But come on up. Let's get a nice group photo. This was a fantastic time, everybody. Thank you so much. Good job. Well done. Hey. Oh, right on. Yeah, no, let's go to track. Yeah, right on. Hey, cool.
Very low.